Hello, everyone. This is the 10th class for social psychological perspectives on health. Today, we will study chapter 8, depression. So, depression. According to the textbook, at least 20% of people have an experience of depression. And those with depression tend to be socioeconomically disadvantaged in conflict-affected or developing countries, women aged between 15 and 25 years. So as we have seen before, those who are depressed are also in the disadvantaged groups. And people often talk about being depressed. And when they say that they are depressed, they tend to mean that they are having low or bad mood. But this is different from clinical depression. Clinical depression refers to feeling sad and feeling anhedonia. So let's look at what anhedonia means. Anhedonia is reduced motivation, reduced anticipatory pleasure, reduced consummatory pleasure, and deficits in reinforcement learning. In the DSM-5, DSM-5 is like a guidebook for diagnosing psychological or clinical disease. So according to the guidebook, a reduced ability to experience pleasure or diminished interest in engaging in pleasurable activities. So clinical depression really does not only mean that it feeling sad or bad or in low mood, but on top of that, people tend to have low motivation, and then people cannot expect that something fun would happen in their life. And because of that expectation, people have very low motivation to do anything. So they are not really motivated to do anything. That's the characteristics of clinical depression. And they also have cognitive symptoms, like they feel hopeless and they tend to do rumination. Rumination means they think same thing again and again, repeatedly. And they have suicidal thoughts. And also they have emotional symptoms, like they are more likely to feel anger or feel guilty. And also there are physiological symptoms like changes to sleep, like many of them they cannot sleep, but also they always feel sleepy. And then lack of appetite, and then low energy levels. And also there are behavioral symptoms such as withdrawal from normal activities. Like basically they cannot get up, they cannot wash their face and teeth, and they cannot eat, maybe not and they cannot study or they cannot go work. So these are the symptoms of clinical depression. And there are ways to treat depression, but the number of people with depression is not reduced. And why is it? That is because a lack of progress in treatment of depression. So basically, treatments of depression are expensive and often only available in affluent areas. And then such treatment are accessible to people in urban areas of developed countries who have financial and social capital and who tend to experience mild to moderate symptoms. Remember, I said that those with depression tend to be socioeconomically disadvantaged or in conflict affected or developing countries. So these people are the ones who really need treatment, but the treatment is often only accessible to only accessible in urban areas of developed countries, and then they really do not need any formal treatment. But that's a problem. And even when they have access to treatment, they do not follow what doctors tell to do. And that is because the stigma of mental illness. People tend to think about mental illness as a sign of some negative characteristics or attributes that individuals have, and they want to hide that they have a depression symptoms. And then in order to hide their symptoms, they tend to stop seeing doctors, or maybe they do not take enough rest from the work, and then they may even worsen the symptoms. And also the side effects of antidepressant medication. Like they tend to have, when they have medication, they tend to have sexual dysfunction, weight gain, drowsiness. And because of the side effects, people often stop taking antidepressant medication. And maybe because of this, and then because of other factors, the depression there's a high relapse rate of depression. So 25 to 50% of people will experience depression relapse within 18 months. So when they have first depression episode, and even if they were successful at treating the depression, 25 to 50% people have depression relapse within 1 year and a half. And even more that 80% of the people diagnosed with depression will relapse at some point. So basically, once you have depression, you are very much likely to have depression episode again, even after you thought that you are cured. And the average person who has experienced depression will have 4 depressive episodes across their lifespan, each of about 5 months duration. So you will have these kind of depression symptoms across 5 months. And then such depression episode will reappear like 4 times or 3 times throughout your lifespan. That's really heavy and then very hurt. So it be a huge destruction for your life. So there must be some treatment for everyone, but as you have seen, the situation is not so well yet. Next, today I will just skip the biochemical model, and that is not because this model is not important, but as I said, this is already 10th class, so it means that we only have 4 more classes. So I wanna leave more time for interpersonal and the social approach. Okay, but I think this study is pretty interesting, so I will just explain what they found with this biochemical model. So antidepressant versus a placebo. Placebo means that a pill that looks very much like a actual medicine, but it's just a sugar pill. So patients are told that you will have a medication, but in fact, actually, they're only taking a sugar. And then they found that, so in mild and moderate to severe cases, no differences in their effectiveness. So regardless they're actually taking a medication or they are just taking a sugar, the effectiveness of treatment were not distinguishable. So this gives you an idea. So on the x-axis, on the x-axis, it indicates the severity of the depression. So to the right, the more severe the depression symptoms you have. And on the y-axis, it indicates how much they get better after taking either antidepressant or sugar pill, placebo. And so red lines indicate that these groups took antidepressant, and blue line indicates the people who took the placebo, a sugar pill. And then black circles indicate how well they get better, and white circles indicate, black circles indicate how much people with antidepressant get better, and then white circles indicate how much people get better with placebo. And as you can see, the lines are very close to the point where the severity of depression is around the middle. So regardless they take antidepressant or placebo, they actually get better. And then the difference only becomes more apparent when the symptoms of depression gets even severer. Okay, so when the severity of depression is very high, when people take antidepressant, they actually get better than the placebo. But still, you find that placebo doesn't really work for some people, but still you find some people get better by taking placebo, and in many cases, antidepressant makes people feel better. But again, the point here is that when the depression is mild or moderate, it doesn't matter which pills they take, either antidepressant or sugar pill. Okay. Let's see, how can I get back to the... Okay. So why is that? So what treat depressed people is the hope and expectancy. So they hope that they will get better by taking this pill. And then they expect that they will get better by taking this pill. And such expectancy and hope treat the symptoms. And that's why, regardless of taking antidepressant or placebo, they get better. And yeah, as you have seen, antidepressant work better for people with more severe depression. But in other words, antidepressants work better only for people with more severe depression. Antidepressants work by dulling painful emotional experiences rather than by correcting dysfunctional brain chemistry. So biochemical approach argues that depressed people have a dysfunctional brain chemistry, but this study shows that antidepressant does not correct the cause, supposedly argued cause. They just make them feel better, and that's because why hope and expectancy will do the same to the symptoms. And neurochemical phenomena may be better understood as correlates or manifestation of depression rather than as its primary cause. So it means that biochemical model argues that the dysfunctional brain chemistry is a cause of depression, but it seems that there are different causes of depression. And when they have such causes, they develop dysfunctional brain chemistry. So the dysfunctional brain chemistry is a product or just a correlate of the presence of depression, the presence of cause of depression. Okay. So let's move on to cognitive behavioral model, more like psychological approach here. So what the cognitive behavior model argues is that a reason people develop depression is that first they have stressful early life events here, and then because of stressful early life events tend to be mild relationship with their parents, I guess. And then because of stressful early life events, they develop maladaptive core beliefs, such like I am unlovable or defective. So I do not deserve being loved by others. This is because they were not loved by their parents or by their family members, and such early life events uh, develop, create these maladaptive core beliefs. And this contribute to having thoughts such as negative thinking about self, the world, and the future. So good. I'm not good enough to be loved by others, or the world is terrible, and then the world will not love me, or the future is so dark, terrible. This kind of negative thinking. And this kind of negative thoughts will lead to negative feelings like low mood, low energy, hopelessness, and guilt. Like I feel guilty for being born. And this kind of negative feelings will lead to negative behavior such like reduced activity, social withdrawal, and suicidality. And this, for example, reduce activity further leads to negative thoughts. Okay, I'm not working, like I do not feel any fun living, so maybe I do not deserve living. This kind of vicious cycle will occur, and then people get depressed. People develop depression. Okay. All right. And this is, I guess I said in somewhere in the previous lectures, but this is a dominant approach in psychology. And an example of cognitive behavior model. So this was more like a theoretical model, and with more concrete example. For example, at workplace, you said hi to your boss and you were ignored by the boss. And this incident makes you think that, oh, my boss hates me, or I never get along with coworkers. And the reason you have this kind of negative thought is probably because you had stressful early life events and then you developed maladaptive core beliefs. And then, because of these thoughts, you will develop feelings like you feel sad. Okay, my boss ignored me. My boss doesn't like me, and I feel sad, or I'm in very bad mood, and like I am hopeless to develop a good relationship with my boss. And this kind of feelings will lead to some behavior like, okay, I will never say hi again, or I will just avoid eye contact with my boss, and then I maybe get absent from work without notice. Think how this behavior will be understood, perceived by your boss. You never say hi. You always avoid eye contact, and then you often become absent from work without notice. Then okay, maybe by this time your boss will actually hate you. And because the boss hates you, boss doesn't say hi to you. And because boss doesn't say hi to you, you will think that, okay, my boss really hates me. I never get along with coworkers. And again, the vicious cycle. So what kind of evidence we have for CVT? At least 60% of people treated experience substantial benefits. So it seems that it works. As I said, this is a dominant approach in psychology, so it should work, and it actually does work. And improvements in symptoms and quality of life appear to precede rather than follow changing cognitions. And this is really important, I think. This is a cognitive behavior model or cognitive behavior therapy. So it argues that by changing their thoughts, their behaviors will change, and by changing their cognition and behaviors, the depression symptoms should get better. This is what the cognitive behavior model argues, but evidence indicates that the quality of life appear to precede rather than follow changing cognition. That means that even before their cognitions change, they actually feel better. And because they feel better, their ways of thinking, their thoughts about themselves and the world and the future change. So this really tells that the cause and effect is opposite to what cognitive behavior model argues. And the most effective component of CBT treatment appears to be the behavioral activation component, and particularly when the activated behaviors promote social engagement. So, okay, not because the thoughts change, like, okay, my boss actually doesn't hate me, but regardless of your thoughts and feelings, you are trained through cognitive behavior therapy to behave in a good way. Okay, let's try to say hi with a louder voice, or let's try to make eye contact a few times in a day. And by changing behaviors, others will change how they perceive you, how they perceive the individuals with depression. And by others changing the way the individuals with depression think about others will also change. So behaviors change their quality of life or change their feeling, and that will change how they think. And I think it's also important that behaviors that particularly promote social engagement seems to be more effective. And this should ring a bell. We have seen that how it is important to develop a good relationship through others is important for our well-being. And the way we develop good relationship with others is that to perceive a shared identity with others. So we will see those mechanisms later on. So the primary contributing factor of CBT is a therapeutic alliance, which means the quality relationship between therapist and the patient. In other words, it's called rapport. So we have seen that therapists who are seen to be honest, respectful, warm, interested, and open tend to achieve better therapeutic outcomes. And then I said that these attributes are the ones people usually see in in-group members. So cognitive behavior model works not because it changes their thoughts, but it gives a quality relationship with their therapist. And by having a quality relationship with their therapist, their quality of life improves, and such improved quality of life actually change how they think or how they try to behave, and then this will cut that vicious cycle. Okay, I think I will just stop here, and then I will cover the rest of materials in the next video.